Your mind hasn't stopped since you woke up. It probably didn't stop while you were sleeping either. There is something running in the background at all times. A conversation that hasn't happened yet. A decision being turned over for the fourth time. A worst-case scenario being quietly assembled from whatever materials happen to be nearby. You didn't choose to start it. You don't know how to stop it. And the harder you try, the louder it gets. Tonight there is something worth knowing about that noise. Not how to silence it. Something more honest than that. You can set everything down for a little while. Whatever you carried here, the weight of the day, the weight of the week, the particular heaviness of a mind that has been working too hard for too long. You don't have to hold any of it tightly right now. This is a place where people who were lost, exhausted, and very human came and found something worth passing on. We'll pass it on to you, not as a lesson, as company. This episode is about the mind that will not rest, and two people, separated by 6 centuries, who understood it from the inside. You know what it is like to lie down at night and feel your mind shift into a higher gear. The day is over, the lights are out. By every reasonable measure, there is nothing left to do. And yet something inside you disagrees. It pulls out the list of things said wrong, decisions made poorly, conversations still unresolved. It rehearses tomorrow before tomorrow has arrived. It runs calculations on situations that may never happen, in futures that may never come, in versions of events where everything goes wrong. And the strangest part is that you know this. You know the thought is circling. You can watch it circling. You just can't make it stop. It lives in the body too. The shoulders that stay lifted even when you tell them to drop. The chest that feels slightly too tight. The breath that has become shallow without you noticing when that happened. You wake at 3 a.m. already braced for something, already tense around an absence you can't quite name. During the day, it hides inside productivity. There is always something to check, something to plan, something to follow up on. The noise disguises itself as usefulness. But at night, when the tasks run out, it reveals itself for what it is, a mind that does not know how to be still. This is not a character flaw. It is not weakness. It is what a mind does when it has never been taught another way. And it is exhausting. Not just the thinking, the effort of living inside a head that gives you no rest. The tiredness of being your own loudest and most relentless companion. You are not broken. You are carrying something that was never designed to be carried this way. There was a man who wrote private notes to himself, not for anyone else to read, just small, honest reminders to get through the week. He wrote things like, "You have woken up to this work again," which means you still have time, and the obstacle in the path is the path. And more than once in different forms. Your mind is yours. Treat it accordingly. His name was Marcus Aurelius. He was the emperor of Rome for nearly 20 years. A man whose responsibilities were so vast and so relentless that they would have flattened almost anyone. And still he struggled, not with enemies or campaigns or plague, though he faced all of those. He struggled with his own mind, its tendency to grip, its refusal to release what was already past. Its insistence on pre-suffering tomorrow. He wrote the Meditations, not as philosophy for the ages, but as private instruction for himself. And buried inside those notes is something remarkably precise about the mind that won't be quiet. He called it the practice of separating what is yours from what is not. The things within your power, your attention, your response, your next deliberate choice, from everything outside it, the outcome, the opinion, the unknowable future. Most of what the noise is made of, he said, belongs to the second category, not yours, never was. And the exhaustion comes in large part from refusing to put it down. This idea is simpler than it sounds and harder than it looks, because the mind that worries does not feel like it is doing something wrong. It feels like it is doing something necessary. It feels like vigilance, like preparation, like if you stop running the scenarios, the thing you feared will finally catch you unguarded. So you keep going. You keep the calculations running. You stand watch over a future that hasn't arrived, and may never arrive because the watching feels like protection. Marcus Aurelius saw this clearly. He wrote in his private notes, about the habit of suffering in advance and adding pain to the present moment from things that have not happened and may never happen. He did not condemn it. He understood it, but he kept returning to the same question in different forms across years of writing. Of all the things your mind is carrying right now, which of them can you actually do something about? That question is worth sitting with, not to produce an answer immediately, just to notice how few of the things currently running in your mind belong on that list. The mind at its loudest is almost always trying to protect something, a relationship it fears losing, a version of the future it is desperate to secure, a version of itself it cannot bear to disappoint. The noise is not random. It is purposeful, just misdirected. It has aimed its considerable power at things it cannot control, and it cannot understand why the effort never feels finished. The mind at 3 a.m. is capable of turning an unanswered text message into a complete reassessment of every life, decision made since the age of 17. It is astonishing. Really, there is no machine on Earth this efficient at manufacturing catastrophe from nothing. And here is where a second voice enters, a man who spent years examining this exact mechanism from a different angle. Siddhartha Gautama, the teacher who came to be called the Buddha, spent his life studying the nature of mental suffering, not as abstraction, from the inside, with the same relentlessness you are probably applying to your own thoughts right now. He left everything, comfort, family, certainty, because he could not unsee the suffering he'd witnessed and could not stop asking why. What he found was this: there are two things happening when the mind is loud. There is the thought itself, and there is the self that is fused to the thought, pulled along by it, identified with it, convinced that the thought is reality rather than simply an event in the mind. He called the second thing suffering we add to ourselves. The original pain, the uncertainty, the fear, the unknowing that is real, but the war we wage against it, the resistance, the clinging, the endless returning to what cannot yet be resolved, that is something we are doing. And because it is something we are doing, it is something that can be done differently. This is not the same as being told to think positive. It is something quieter and more honest than that. It is the suggestion that you are not your thoughts, that you are the one who notices the thoughts, and that noticing, that small, steady act of observation, is the beginning of something that fighting never was. Neither of them offered silence as the goal. This is important. Marcus Aurelius did not write about emptying the mind. The Buddha did not teach that thoughts must be eliminated. They both understood that the mind thinks. That is what it does. That is what it was built for. The question was never how to stop it. The question was how to stop being entirely at its mercy. The practice they point toward, in different languages, from different directions, is observation rather than combat. When the noise begins tonight, the instruction is not to push it away. It is to notice it. To take one small step back from inside the thought and recognize it as a thought, not a fact, not a verdict, not a prediction with certainty. A thought, which is a thing the mind produced, not a thing the world confirmed. Marcus wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That power is not the power to silence the noise. It is the power to stop treating every piece of noise as though it requires an immediate response. And the Buddha taught what he called bare attention, the practice of simply watching what arises in the mind without immediately becoming it. The thought of tomorrow's difficulty is not tomorrow's difficulty. The thought of what might go wrong is not what has gone wrong. They are weather passing through a sky. The sky does not become the storm. It holds it. You don't have to master this tonight. You only have to try it once. The next thought that arrives, the one circling, the one that has been circling, try watching it for a moment before following it. That is all. That is the whole practice. The mind that cannot be quiet is not your enemy. It's a part of you that has been working very hard for a very long time trying to keep you safe. It learned to do this somewhere, in a season when vigilance made sense, when staying prepared meant staying protected. And it has never been told that the season changed. What Marcus Aurelius found, and what the Buddha found, and what people have found in the quiet after a long struggle, is that the mind is not a problem to be solved. It is something to be understood, and something that, slowly, with patience and without force, can be taught another way. You don't have to be free of the noise by the end of tonight. You only have to be slightly less at war with it. That is not a small thing. That is, in fact, the beginning of everything. If something in this episode gave you a moment of recognition or a moment of quiet, the comment section is here, and it belongs to you. There is one question worth sitting with. If you want to take something forward when your mind is at its loudest, what is it usually trying to protect you from? You don't have to answer out loud, but if you want to, leave it in the comments. Or if tonight words are too much, just leave a moon emoji. That's enough. If this felt like the right place, there is more here. The playlist is called I Can't Stop Worrying, and every episode in it was made for exactly where you are. This channel is here whenever you need it.